Awesome. Everybody, thank you for being here for another episode of Enclosed Cosmology Fellowship. Today we're going to be talking about one of the main patriarchs within within the Bible, Abraham, and so much stuff to learn from this man, and all the different things that surrounded him. So I wanted to start off by saying welcome to everybody that's here. We sure do appreciate it. Don't forget to share, like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. It really does help us. And like we always do, we read out the comments from the last video on the end of the stream. So stay tuned for that. But anyways, before I get too far into that normal discussion, I'll go ahead and say hello to our main brother here, Anthony. How you doing this evening? Shabbat shalom. Yeah, absolutely. Now, I'm having a little difficulty on my side with showing our names for some reason. I don't understand why we're in the correct channel. So bear with me with that while I get that fixed, guys. But yeah, let's go ahead and say hi, everyone, as I get that fixed. We'll go ahead and throw it off to Daryl. How you doing this evening, sir?
Here in Alaska this time of year. But anyhow,
sorry. I'm so sorry about that, Daryl, for interrupting you. I'm having a couple technical difficulties when I restarted my computer for some reason. Some of the settings that I normally have on or off. So I'm going to redo that again and throw it off to Anthony. I'm sorry, brother. Will you please say hello to everyone again?
What, nobody can hear me there again, huh?
No, yeah, it was my fault. I apologize.
Y'all, but it's always better the first time around. But Shabbat Shalom to everybody. Many blessings. I think we have a little bit of gravy to get into tonight, and I hope everybody enjoys it. Thank you all for showing up in the chat and in the Discord and in the stream. Thank you all. Much love.
Yeah, absolutely. And then y'all didn't get to hear it before, so I'll throw it off to Daryl again. How you doing this evening, brother?
all pretty good. I just waking up from a long nap. My biological clock is kind of weird this time of year. But anyhow, it's good to be here. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Looking forward to this evening. And right on.
Awesome. Thank you for that. Go ahead and throw it off to Frankie B. How you doing this evening, brother?
Shabbat Shalom. Hey, your new mic sounds really good, Vader. You're coming in super loud and clear.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Hey, Daryl, you're up in Alaska. Is it constant sunlight up there?
No, it's pretty dark right now.
Yeah, it's when it's our summers, it's all day sunlight because the sun is in the center of the plane, and then it's all, like, most of the time nighttime when it's our winter because the sun is the furthest away for them. So yeah.
Yeah, backwards.
All right. Well, Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Excited for the show. Let's go. Go Birds. Eagles are playing. Let's go, baby. Dallas sucks.
I quit following baseball years ago, man. Back when they quit following baseball, man. I'm like, dude, you're out there playing a game and getting paid millions to do it, man. Like, quit crying, man. Just go out there and play the game, man.
And have fun. Yeah, totally. Awesome. All right, before we get too off track with that, go ahead and so we have a new guy joining us today. His name's Kyle. This is a friend of mine for a couple of years. I'm definitely excited he's getting able to join us. So go ahead and just say hi to everyone, Kyle, and then we'll get into giving a little bit more information about you here in just a minute.
Hey everyone, my name's Kyle. Like Bader said, I've been his friend for I'd say about 5 years now, and he's taught me a lot of things. And I almost see him as a father, as I hope some of y'all do as well. He's very knowledgeable, as I've said before. But as about myself, I'm learning I'm young. I'm learning. I'm probably not going to say a lot of things, but yeah, I appreciate you having me on your stream, Vader.
Nice. Welcome, Kyle.
Thank you, Frankie.
Yeah, absolutely. And remember, just because you don't have anything like to necessarily, you don't feel like you have anything to submit knowledge wise, just asking questions goes quite a far way. So that's definitely really important. But sweet. All right.
Definitely going to be asking questions.
Nice. Yes, that's what we want to hear. And then throw it off to Nick. How you doing this evening, brother?
Hey, I'm really good. Shalom to everyone. This is exciting getting to this part in the Word, and I feel like I don't know. This is probably going to take a couple shows at least for you guys to get through all of Abraham. So I'd like to make it to each one and hopefully stay up as late as possible to be part of the whole show. So thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We were kind of joking about this. It's like there's no way we can do like less episodes about Abraham over Nimrod. You know what I mean? Like we got to give the man with the most, one of the most props instead of the guy, the special boy. So, but anyways, awesome. Well, thanks for being here, and we're super excited to get into this. We talked about a lot of dark stuff right up to this point, a lot of, like destruction and corruption and how the world had to be cleansed, and you have all this kind of nasty stuff. But I feel like this is when we start to get into the promises of the Father and getting to see his character towards someone who is following after his heart. And I really like to see that distinction between kind of what's been going on and then what's going to be leading in to with him. So awesome. All right. Well, now, I want to give Anthony just a little bit of time, if you'll buy me. I'm trying to figure out why our icons aren't showing up. So if you wanted to kind of have a little general discussion real quick while I do that, that would be most helpful to me.
Yeah, I can do a little general instruction.
Perfect.
We're going to get into some pretty decent gravy tonight about Abram. However, there's got to be some sort of a transition between what we've talked about with about Nimrod and into looking at the hero side of it, like the good guy side of it. Like we know what Nimrod's about, so now we're going to get into what Abraham's about and how they how their paths cross, so to speak. I don't want to give too much away, but I kind of feel like Abraham is like the Bible's first superhero, so to speak, and I'm super excited to get into the things that Abraham did and what he went through and the life that he lived and everything. And it's some pretty amazing stuff. And I know a lot of people haven't really viewed it the way that I view it probably, but hopefully we can get into that and look at it as like a microscope on Abraham himself. It's some pretty awesome stuff.
Sounds good.
Give you enough time to get things fixed.
No, but I can keep going. So it's so weird. I don't like it. Literally has the exact same information in it, so it's very weird why it's not just all of a sudden working. But anyways, guys, I'll keep trying to get that working as we continue. Now, what we're gonna start off is reading some scriptures. Now, what I'd like to say is, as I kind of alluded to before, is I'm sure a lot of people know, but if those that don't, Abram and Nimrod, Gilgamesh, Tammuz, pick your name. These men were contemporaries. Abraham did leave cities that were controlled by Nimrod in order to start developing his relationship to the Father. He was called out. He was set apart from the nations. Even though he was a part of the nations, he was called out and made a separate thing. So we're definitely going to get that. We're going to be reading scriptures from Genesis, King James Version. I do it just for the literary reasons. Of course, picture scripture and choose a whole bunch of different ones so you have a good idea of what it's saying. And I suggest, as others do, using good concordances to dive down into each of those words that you struggle with. But anyways, we're also going to be reading some from the Targum as well as from the book of Jasher. So we're super excited this. And as we said before, this is going to be a multi-part stream because we cannot hope to get all the knowledge and information that we'd like to about this man in one stream. That's definitely not going to do him justice. So, all right. So I guess go ahead, Anthony.
Brother, would you kind of say that this has as much, if not more, sort of conspiracy type stuff in it than what Genesis 1 actually has in it?
What do you mean?
Like, is there a bigger story in Genesis 12 and so on than what is actually in Genesis 1?
Interesting enough, I almost say like I say every. See, I use the book of Genesis in this kind of thought that I have. Like, I think every truth claim that is contained within Scripture is contained within Genesis. So I think Genesis is a good succinct way of telling the story with the details. But I think those details kind of get opened up and expanded within all the other Scriptures. Because like, for instance, like you can see Messiah in Genesis 1, all throughout Genesis. So it's constantly alluding to him, to me. Now when you're specifically saying a bigger story in 12 than 1, I don't necessarily follow. I don't,
well,
I
maybe
think
not a bigger story, but basically,
I think I kind of get what you're saying. You're kind of saying like, so, I get it. So yeah, it is a bigger in the story in the essence of like Genesis 1 is mostly like how everything came to be. But then when you start getting into Abraham, you start actually getting into the heart of man. And I definitely think that's way more important than, how everything works per se.
Yes, I totally agree. Oh man, I can't wait to get into this. But yeah, it's almost like Abraham was so close to doing what Yeshua did, and we're gonna see the transgressions that he went through and the hard times and the hardships that he went through and everything. But it's nothing compared to what Yeshua went through. Nothing. I mean, well, I hate to use that word nothing compared to. It is sort of kind of like what Yeshua went through, but it's not close to the torment and stuff that what Yeshua actually went through. Even though Abraham he went through some pretty tough stuff too.
Oh my gosh, guys, I literally just figured out what it was. I don't know who did it, if it was me, but we totally joined the wrong channel. We're in voice and not live stream. So will y'all quickly jump over there for me, please? Sorry about that, guys. We were all getting in here, so we should see people start creeping in here momentarily. So awesome. Now we can actually have the names on the screen. Thank you so much for that, fellas, and I'm glad we got it figured out.
Well, so please don't tell me that nobody heard anything we was talking about.
No, everyone heard everything we were talking about. They just couldn't see the pictures of who was talking.
I got you.
So yeah. Anyways, let's actually, now that we got that fixed, it's like perfect timing. Let's go ahead and get into the show. So when we had previously, we're looking into scriptures. When we got into Nimrod, Gilgamesh, call them whatever you want. We left off reading Genesis 11 and 12. So now we got into 12 a little bit, but we kind of stopped because that was more for for Nimrod. So anyways, so I'm going to go ahead and pull it up on the screen, and then we're going to read Genesis 12, and then we're going to read...
Okay. I didn't
what's
mean
up?
to interrupt you, but was Kyle gonna give a bit of a testimony there
Oh,
before
thank
we
you so
started?
much. I'm so sorry. I totally... that with my issues that, oh my gosh, everything's falling apart. I'm just joking. All right, let's get this done. So since we normally do this, it's been actually a while since we did this, so thanks for the reminder there, Daryl. So Kyle's joining us. We typically, when someone joined us, we just say, hey, you want to give as big or little as a testimony as you'd like, kind of about who you are, where you're from, and then with your kind of testimony on your journey of truth that you've been on, and then so go ahead and do that, and then we're going to get the straw that broke the camel's back when it comes to biblical cosmology. But yeah, kind of give people a little bit more information about yourself.
So I'm gonna make it as short as possible. I was raised as a Methodist Christian, and that's due to my mom. She's a Bible Belt Christian, raised in the Delta of Mississippi. And as for my, you know, my truth-seeking orb, you could say, I'm really just a listener as of right now, instead of like what Vader is or what Anthony is. I'm really a listener, and I'm trying to gain as much knowledge as I can before I, am outspoken and start. I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about before I actually talk about it. If that makes
Totally.
sense.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
Yeah.
pretty much it.
Nice. Yeah. And so, like, kind of little from my side, like you said, we've known each other for quite a few years, around 5 years. And, yeah, it's been a pretty cool path, bro. Like, I'm definitely glad we're still friends, and we've definitely had our rocky times in life. And, that comes through all relationships. But, what's things really cool to me is what I pointed out before is you've always asked questions. And what I love about that is, I don't know if you know about this, and I'll just say it in a paraphrase, but during one of the feasts, Yeshua and Mary and Joseph all go to Jerusalem for the feast. And when they leave, there's, the big caravan all headed back to Bethlehem, to, the Nazarene area. And Joseph and Mary get worried because they can't find Yeshua. They're looking for him here and there. Have you seen him? No. So they go back to Jerusalem, and they literally find him in the temple, sitting there asking questions to the elders. And even someone who is the Son of the Most High, our Messiah, at a point in his life was asking questions. So that should be all good, behavior that we should see and wanna do. So anytime I run across someone who asks questions, that's the mindset that you need to really have a heart after the Father. So I do really appreciate that. And then, so I know you're not like, I know it's like kind of been up and down for you as far as like cosmology goes. But like for you personally, what's like that, the proverbial straw that broke the camel's back that is making you lean more towards like biblical explanation of what we live on, opposed to the worldly, quote unquote, scientifical view of where we live?
Just mainly, as I got older and as you've opened my eyes, I've seen all the lies that our government has said over the whatever, however long, 100 years or whatever. And I think I think you were the first person I heard about the flat Earth whole thing, and I remember being so against it. I was like, there's no way. But then as I got older, of course, I got a little bit of wiser, and I started listening to you talk about how you could prove it, and those things really stuck in my mind. Um, so breaking point was probably the last 2 years ago, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, where I actually started putting a lot of more faith into God as I got older, and especially as I got as more struggles came my way as becoming a young adult.
Yeah, totally. And dude, don't feel like it's gonna continue happening. And I totally get that, bro. Like when I first heard it, as most of us first heard about it, it was like, are you dumb? You know, like how could you possibly think this? Like we've known for thousands of years, and I appreciate you saying that. You know, about like our relationship and me. You know, telling you things and making you kind of think for yourself about some things. Because that's really all it is, and that's the point of this place. And you know, like just developing these relationships where we can all share our puzzle pieces that the Father's given us. And sometimes those puzzle pieces have a question mark on them, so that's why we love questions. So, but awesome. All right. Well, definitely, we appreciate you being here, and this goes to you and to anyone. We love having new people on. We have loving having more voices and opinions and puzzle pieces at the table. There's links in the description for the Discord, and if mods can, please also share it. Come and join us. We have conversations all throughout the week, not only voice but also text. We share a lot of the great content creators out there that are seeking the truth. Sean from Kingdom Context, West from West Blaze Music, Austin from What's It Gets It, all the great names. We got the Vineyard Parables of the Vineyard. So we have a lot of great people that we share. And speaking about content creators, before we get into the main topic, I just want to shout out to Chris and Liz once again. Thank you so much for allowing us to come on your platform and share our puzzle pieces with your audience and with your subscribers. It means a world to us. And thank you all those that come and support us on our channel as we're growing. We're getting pretty close to the 400 and then 500, and you know, it's really awesome seeing all these puzzle pieces come together and watch the Discord grow and the conversations grow and these relationships bloom, and it's so cool to me. It's definitely fulfilling spiritually. So, all right, well, enough of that. Go ahead, Anthony.
I got a question right quick for Kyle, if he don't mind answering. What was like your ultimate turning point? Like what did it for you? Like where was the time that you said, hey, you know what, this stuff is real and I need to look into it? Like what brought that to your attention, man?
So 2 years ago, I don't know what was like. I was probably the best shape I've ever been in. Mentally focused. You know, was making a bunch of money, not a bunch of money, but you know, enough so I can be sustainable. You know, pay my own rent and everything. And I started. I do not know what happened, but like I started getting this feeling within inside myself that was just like, you know, like something's going on, whatever, you know. And honestly, like I thought I had cancer. I had convinced myself I had, you know, leukemia, you know, whatever. And I was struggling for like 3 months, and then you know, and then I went back to my mom's house. And we've always had like this kind of on and off relationship where, you know, we were good, then we weren't good, then we were good. But this was in a moment where we were good, and we just started talking more and more, and got even closer as a mom and son should. And I started just praying. She told me to pray, and I started praying. You know, help me, you know, get this feeling out of my body, because I just had some extraordinary feeling within inside my body that just made me I don't know if it was uncomfortable or, you know, gave me anxiety, depression, you know, demons in my body that I, you know, told God to get out of me, and He did, and it really, I honestly think that saved my life, because, you know, who knows what would happen, and that was the turning point. It was 2 years ago, and every day it's just getting better and better.
That's amazing, brother. And I want to
Yeah.
let you know, we welcome you with flying colors. You're a part of this family just like anybody else is. I don't care if they've been here for 10 years or 10 minutes.
I really appreciate that, Anthony. Thank you. That was a really good question, because I kind of wanted to answer it in my whenever I was actually like explaining you know, details about myself. but I didn't really want to get into that. I wanted it to be a little bit shorter.
I got you, brother. I got you.
Awesome. Yeah,
Thank
praise John. Indeed, Hemp Creek Bear. Awesome. Well, definitely appreciate that for the question as well. So I'm going to pull up here on screen really quickly. This is going to be Genesis 12. So we're going to start reading from this. I'm going to read Genesis 12, and then we're going to have some others read from the book of Jasher as well as the Targum. Now, I don't know if you have it available, but Nick was wondering if you maybe had a picture of the Aramaic Palestinian Targum just so people could see what it looked like. If you want to post that in the chat, that'd be awesome. If you don't have it available, then maybe another time. But I'm going to go...
Get the link. I've found several links to it, but I can't find the one I'm looking for. But every time I try to post it, was like too many characters. I want to find a decently clean link to go to. I don't want to spread no viruses or nothing like that. So it's really tough for me to search and talk at the same time. And I'm very sorry about that. I will be getting a link out.
No worries. Yeah, that's why I was kind of letting you know before I started reading, so you had some time. But I'll go ahead and start reading this. Again, this is Genesis 12 from the King James Version. Now it says, Now the Lord had said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto a land that I will show thee. And I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be blessing. And I will bless them that bless thee, and curse thee that curseth thee, and in thee shall all families of the earth be blessed. So Abram departed as the Lord had spoken unto him, and Lot went with him. And Abram was 75 years old when he departed out of Haran. And Abram took Sarah his wife, and Lot his brother's son, and all their substance that they had gathered, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran, and they went forth to go into the land of Canaan, and into the land of Canaan they came. And Abram passed through the land of a place called Shechem, unto the plain of Moreh, and the Canaanite was then in the land. And the Lord appeared unto Abram and said, Unto thy seed will I give this land. And there builded he an altar unto the Lord, who appeared unto him. And he removed from thence unto a mountain of the east of Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west and Hai on the east. And there he built an altar unto the Lord, and called upon the name of the Lord. And Abram journeyed, going on still towards the south. And there was a famine in the land, and Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, for famine was grievous in the land. And it came to pass, and he came near to enter into Egypt, that he said unto Sarah his wife, Behold, I know that thou art a fair woman to look upon. Therefore it shall come to pass, when the Egyptians shall see thee, that they shall say, This is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will save thee alive. Say, I pray thee, thou art my sister, that it may be well for me for thy sake, and my soul shall live because of thee. And it came to pass that when Abram was come into Egypt, the Egyptians beheld the woman, that she was very fair. The princes also the Pharaoh saw her, and condemned her, and commended her before Pharaoh, and the woman was taken into Pharaoh's house. And he entreated Abram well for her sake, and he had sheep, ox, and axes, and manservants, and maidservants, and asses, and camels. And the Lord plagued Pharaoh and his house with great plagues because of Sarah, Abram's wife. And Pharaoh called Abram and said, What is this that thou hast done unto me? Why dost thou not tell me that she is thy wife? Why sayest thou, She is my sister? So I might have taken her to me wife. Therefore, behold thy wife, take her, and go thy way. And the Pharaoh commanded his men concerning him, and they sent them away, and his wife, and all that he had. So, definitely some interesting stuff in there. one thing that I kind of want to point out, that's super important to me. It has been super important to me in my journey, is this something that it brings up quite soon when he gets into this land. So here we know he's in Canaan, and it says the Lord appeared unto Abram, said, "Into thy seed I will give this land," and there he builded an altar unto the Lord who appeared unto him. And he removed from thence unto a mountain set in Bethel, and pitched his tent, having Bethel on the west and Hai on the east. And he builded an altar unto the Lord, and called upon the name of the Lord. So that to me, this right here is something that's very interesting, because we see Noah doing the same behavior, and we see Adam and his sons doing the same behavior. So we know that that this behavior is not new, and it's something that those that were in relationship with the Father had done throughout the years leading up to Abraham. And we're definitely going to see this more. And then another thing that I want to point out, me personally, is how it talks about Abram, how he actually does leave his father's house and his kindred and all that stuff. And he goes into this place where he has, pretty much no control over. And even though he has all that faith to do and to go into Canaan like the Father asked, he's still fearful that his blessing at any moment could be taken away from him. So he has his wife lie and say that he's his sister. And Sean brought some information about this. I won't go into it too much, but the last little point is how he knew that because of all the stuff that was happened, that it was the real Father. It was the real Abba. And he came to Abram and was like, "Hey, why'd you do this? Why are you lying to me saying that she's this? Like, bad things could have happened. I could have sinned against you and the Father. Y'all need to get out of here," and sent them on their way. So I think that's really interesting, that as much as we see him have this faith to do what the Father says, he's still scared about doing it. So yeah, what are y'all's thoughts? Anyone? Oh, it looks like we lost Anthony. Can everyone hear me right now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay.
I didn't have anything right away. Someone else.
Good.
Oh, no worries. It was just silent, so I didn't know if I was disconnected or not. But anyone want to bring up any points or ask any questions or anything like that about this as of yet?
Yeah, why wasn't
just-
Abraham? Why wasn't Abraham punished for lying?
Well, I think we see that with our Father in general, right? He's long suffering. That's one of the definitions of love, is that it's long suffering. So the Father isn't Thanos, where he just snaps people out of existence. He gives them a chance, even all the way up to the point of their destruction. So, and we could go to this about many of the prophets, literally all the prophets, where we can see that there is at times when their behavior or their decision to go against the will of the Father and be in the Father's behavior leads to strife in their life. Jonah is a great example of that. So yeah, I don't think he's just going to instantly punish him. And what I mean by that is there's spiritual punishments, and then there's, real life punishments. So what I mean by that is, like, his real life punishment is he had Pharaoh pretty mad at him. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think that was just, hey, that wasn't nice, please leave. Right? Like, I'm pretty sure what it's describing here was a pretty stern talking to. So I think there is ramifications to lies in our life that we do, as well as other sins that happen in our life. But like, who fears the man who can destroy the body, but the y'all who can destroy the soul, is kind of how I look at that.
Yeah, can I make a comment? It is interesting to me. What's occurring to me right now is that the Torah that they had right then, Abraham, and before them, Noah, that you're talking about, it was still an oral and or spiritual Torah at that time. It wasn't they weren't passing down something that was written down or anything, but they
I
definitely. Well, one second, Anthony. Let me just.
apologize.
All right, Anthony, you're roboting, bro. So let me just finish this
I
thought.
had to. Strengthen-
Okay,
Just go ahead. I'll go ahead and mute him while he's roboting.
yeah,
Just go ahead.
yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Vader. I appreciate that. Temper.
No, you gotta deafen him, Vader. We can still hear him. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, so I was just saying I want to hear Vader's comment and other people. Like it still seems like at that point, whatever Torah they had was of a oral slash spiritual nature.
Well, I
And
think
had
they all.
different
I think. Just sorry. I think they always are. So when it specifically says here in 7, and the Lord appeared unto Abraham. Well, this is interesting. This is Elohim. So Elohim appeared unto Abraham. Now, this goes into agency and the fact, a whole bunch of other stuff. But what my point is it goes into, and it says, and said, unto thy seed I will give this land, and there he builded he an altar unto the Lord who had appeared unto him. So my specific belief when it comes to Abraham is I agree. I don't think he had oral traditions handed into him, and that's because we know that he's coming out of a different country under a different kindred under his father's house. And if you go back and you look at Haran, this is a part of Nimrod's empire. So all the type of rituals and things that it would have been within his life that he would have learned from his fathers and his fathers before him would have had nothing to do with what he was doing here. So my opinion here is this is the wrong place that I'm highlighting. It's in 7. I think this is him being taught this stuff just as Adam and Eve were taught inside the garden. That's my personal opinion.
And were they taught before they ate from the wrong tree or after they ate from the wrong tree?
I believe that they were taught good behavior from day one.
Okay, so before they ate from the knowledge of good and
Totally, because for instance, them being told, your question's kind of answered in the question, because they were told not to eat of the tree, which is Torah. It's the same thing. It's an instruction from the Father of something they should or shouldn't do. Now, I think most of the everything, I think the tree's actually a good example, because he says you can eat from every other tree except this tree, which is giving a delineation, or it's dividing it. Just as we see light from dark, etc., we have this this duality kind of aspect. Not that the New Age duality, so don't take me wrong, but point.
I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, can I break in on that real quick? No, it's just
Totally.
interesting to me because you say it's Torah, but then I would still think the Torah that they were supposedly given before eating from the wrong tree would have to be something different than what, say, the Torah that Abraham's being given, which is different than the Torah given 400 years later after Abraham.
No, because the reason why I disagree with that is because Yeshua summed it all up. The Pharisees, Sadducees come to him and say, what's the most important commandment? And he says, love thy father with all thy heart, might, and strength, and love thy neighbor as thy love thyself. All the law and prophets hang on these 2 commandments. So the reason why I say that kind of disproves it is because I also believe that when they're given the instructions, I don't think it was just don't eat from the tree of knowledge and good and evil. They were being taught proper behavior, and at that time, I believe they were doing it correctly. So I think
being taught right from wrong, Vader. before they ate from the wrong tree.
Totally, right? Because being told to not eat from the tree is saying right or wrong. It's saying all the other trees are right, this tree is wrong. So yes, they knew right and wrong before they ate from the tree. The tree is not the knowledge of right and wrong, it's the knowledge of good and evil, which I believe are two, they're interconnected, but they're separate topics.
Okay.
But yeah, I do believe the Father is unchanging, and so, but I also believe He's merciful and He's a judge. So I think that at times and places He doesn't alter it; He just explains it a little bit more to the people, and I think He is. Like He created this, like everything, right? So He's like the best architect, He's the best lawyer, He's the best judge, He's the best everything. So I think that, and because He's also a merciful, loving God, I think He doesn't give, like He didn't just, for instance, give Adam and Eve every single, law that they had to do, all at one time. First day, first lesson, remember all of these things. I think like He is with us individually, He was like with them as well, where He knows it's like a learning and growing process. The difference between, I guess, us and Adam and Eve is we're under sin, whereas they were not until they were. So, but yeah, hopefully that at least answers your question.
Doesn't it say love never judges? Yeah, can I finish my point first?
Yeah. What'd you ask? Hold on, Frank. What'd you say?
I said, doesn't the Bible say that God is love? And then in 1 Corinthians 13 it says love never judges. So that would make God a judge.
I think that's just an interpretation.
God is love. Love never judges.
No, I totally get what you're saying. I don't think if you're trying to say that God doesn't judge because it says that love doesn't judge. I don't know specifically what you're talking about. You're saying 1 Corinthians?
Well, you said that God is a judge, but if God is pure love,
Mm-hmm.
and then love never judges.
Where do you see love never judges?
1 Corinthians 13, all about love, the chapter of love. God and love doesn't judge. Love is
It does not say love doesn't judge. It says love keeps no record of wrong.
That's judgment, isn't it?
Huh?
Oh, it's not. Oh, okay.
I don't know. I guess you could personally interpret that. That's not how I interpret when it says keep no record of wrong.
That's what I said. It's just interpretation. That's all it is. That's what it means.
Right.
Like my no record of wrong, like with your family, is like, like as an example with your family is like, let's say they said something rude to you. You don't hold that on to them and say, like.
You don't judge on that.
No, there's a difference. So he specifically says we can judge people on their fruits, right? So like if you see someone, participating in.
You'll know my people by their fruit. Doesn't say you can judge them by
You see, but you're just playing semantics right now. That's all that is. You're saying judge means this and not that.
All right,
Like when they asked Yeshua how many times that you should forgive your brother, and he said like 7 times 77 to forgive them, and in that forgiveness, you're not holding account a record of their sins against them. So what that means.
Totally. And then I did see Sean said in the chat, he said, for consideration, I think this is for Nick, it says Jubilees 3 tells us angels taught Adam and Eve for 7 years in the garden, and Adam knew how to offer incense and offerings on the altar the day he was kicked out. Which totally makes sense. The fact that
Nick,
we see his sons doing that as well.
Vader, can I respond to that when
Oh, of
you got a
course.
second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and you go first, and I respond to John.
Oh my
Well, I
gosh, I
think
have
that
Anthony
gets
still
burned
muted,
out.
so I don't even know if he's still. I'm so sorry, brother. You were roboting really hard. You're unmuted. Sorry about that.
Oh, so y'all muted me this whole time?
Not
I
this
was
whole time, but you were when you came in and Nick was talking. You were roboting like really bad, and no one could hear what Nick was saying.
Yeah, I get that. I don't know what happened to my internet. I just got totally shut down on everything. I'm sorry about that, y'all. Everything shut down. I can't even share the post I was wanting to share and the YouTube and all that stuff. It shut me down. I'm sorry. But yeah, Nick, about back to Jubilees chapter 3, what Sean brought up, man. Please come up with an answer for that. I'm waiting on that answer, man. And you and I have discussed that in the past, man. When we gonna discuss that? When we gonna talk about that? Where it says
Yeah,
Adam and Eve were taught Torah in the garden. I mean, and also where it says in the Targum where
Mhm.
the Torah was created 2,000 years before the earth was.
yeah, absolutely. This is why I take issue with Jubilees being in canon because I find that it contradicts the narrative of Genesis and the garden. I don't see how Adam and Eve could be taught the law or Torah before eating from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. Torah, hold
But
on, Anthony, you can't interrupt me. I gotta get this out. Torah
Sorry.
requires knowledge of good and evil, as in the Mosaic covenant. You have to understand right and wrong, good and bad. So for me, that does not line up with Scripture because Adam and Eve were innocent. They did not have knowledge of good and evil before they ate from the wrong tree. They were
Then
commanded.
how?
Anthony, you gotta let me finish. They were commanded not to eat from that tree, and being innocent and not knowing the
Transgress.
consequences of disobeying a commandment, not knowing the consequences of disobeying a commandment, they went and got deceived and ate from the wrong tree and then suffered the consequences. So again, that's my opinion. I don't I feel like the argument or the position that Jubilees is in canon is just not consistent with the rest of canon. But go ahead, Anthony. Thanks for letting me speak.
All right, brother. I'm sorry for interrupting you. I thought you were done there for a second. I'm very sorry about that. But I need to ask you, man, how did they transgress if they didn't even know they was transgressing?
exactly. How can they
I'd like
possibly?
to answer that if I could.
Totally.
There's two aspects to the Torah. You got the letter of the law and the spirit of the law. Okay, the spirit of the law is there's life, and the letter of the law is whether it's in death. So they were being taught the spirit of the law, the Torah, in the beginning, and the letter of the law came later.
The letter of law was created by man. It was never created by the Father. Even when it was scribed into stone, that was after thousands of years of trying to get them to live by the spirit of the law, right? So it was their hardness of their heart that he's like, fine, if you have to have something that says it on stone, here you go. But he didn't yeah, totally. The spirit of law had always existed, and I'll say this: if I find my children, I'll give you an example. Now, let's say I've never ever had a conversation with any of my children about knives, and I go in to the kitchen. I went outside, throw away the garbage, and I came back out inside, and the children are playing with knives. Right? They're throwing around knives. Now, I would not discipline them. I would not spank them and say, how dare you do that? Because I had not told them to not play with knives. Now, obviously, that's a little bit of a different relationship between the Yah and us humans. But what my point is I can't get mad at my children for doing things that I never instructed them to do. And so now I know maybe the word Torah is offensive to some people. When I hear of Torah, I literally, like, what I imagine in my head. I don't think of Moses. I literally think of what the Father would and would not want me to do. That's what I think of the Torah, the instructions that a father would give a father. Hey, if you see this cord and it's frayed, don't touch it. If you see this thing hot, don't touch it. A lot of instructions people take personally, like it's some type of list of rules and regulations that you can and can't do. That's not what it was intended for the Father. I think in the beginning, as Daryl pointed out, it was a spiritual thing, not a physical thing. We didn't get that physical thing till years of us being disobedient. But specifically to the instruction or Torah, when I say that they were taught Torah in the beginning, I'm saying they had to be told not to eat from the tree to not eat it. But what, from your perspective, to me it's inconsistent, because you're saying hold up, Anthony, I was talking. So what they were oh my gosh, go ahead, Anthony.
No, I'm sorry, brother.
No, I lost my train of thought. Go ahead, man.
I was just saying that at least they knew what was right and wrong, because once they eat of the fruit of the tree, then they knew they had done wrong, because they hid from Yah whenever he came into the garden. They knew they had done wrong. So they had to have known that they transgressed something.
How could have they transgressed? Like, you're saying that they didn't have the knowledge of good and evil, so they didn't know what. I'm talking to Nick. They didn't know the difference between right and wrong, but yet we're giving a straight up example of him saying eating from these fruits is good, eating from this fruit is bad, you'll die.
Mm-hmm.
So
and can I, since there was no death in the garden, and them being innocent and being created innocent, did they fully understand that command? And I would say no, they didn't. And being innocent, they were deceived by the serpent. And
why do you not think? Well, so you qualified your that whole statement by saying they didn't know what they were doing was wrong. How did they not know that what they were doing was wrong?
Okay, so they had not experienced death. He said, if you eat from this tree, you will die.
Do you know? Whoa, hold up. You keep saying things and then keep going. But so, okay, when you say they didn't know, when it said that they would die, that he didn't know that that they thought that it was an instant death. How do you know that's what they thought? Is what I'm asking. That's your thought of what they thought, but you have no idea what they actually thought about what they were told.
Oh, I don't know their exact thoughts. I'm saying this: there was no death in the garden. So
what type of death? You mean? What do you mean? There's no death in the garden?
I'm pull up the scripture. There was no. They had not experienced death firsthand. They were innocent. They were created innocent, and not knowing right or wrong, not knowing better, they were deceived by the serpent, and they ate from the tree from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and that's why I don't think Jubilees is properly canon, because it's saying that there was law in the garden before they ate of the.
But from your view, you're saying that them eating from the tree of knowledge and good and evil was not a bad thing.
1 second.
No, of course it's a bad thing. I'm saying my issue is, where was the law allegedly, supposedly in the garden, and Jubilee says it was in the garden pre-fall, and they were learning Torah, and I think that does not line up with Genesis, and that's why I understand Jubilees not being in canon for most, and that's just my opinion. I don't see it being consistent otherwise. Anthony.
Sorry, brother, but it lines up perfectly. Jubilees lines up perfectly with Genesis. It lines up perfectly. I don't see how you see it otherwise.
Well, obviously, people can disagree on scriptures. That's obviously why we can't be in the new kingdom, because we're still arguing and trying to learn what the truth is. So, but back to what you were saying. So, I'm kind of confused here. So, did Adam and Eve sin from eating from the tree?
I say
Yeah,
no.
Just hold up, Anthony. Nick, did they sin when they ate from the tree?
They didn't break the law.
I didn't ask about law. I said, did they sin when they ate from the tree?
know, but
It's super simple yes or no question, I believe.
No, my answer may not be simple. You don't have to agree with it, but depending on what covenant you're talking about, that word sin has different meanings. In one covenant, it just
Okay,
means to
did they
break the law.
do a no when it came to eating the tree?
You got you don't have to.
I asked the question is 1 + 1 = 2, and you're like explaining to me how that happens. Like, I get it.
Would y'all agree that?
Yeah, go ahead, bro.
Would y'all agree that like eating the fruit was a test?
No, I don't necessarily agree with that. But I'm saying this: the sin that they experienced was a spiritual death and falling out of faith with Yahuwah.
I thought you said they didn't die.
They did not die that day.
Who said that they would die that day?
They died spiritually I'm sorry, they died spiritually that day. They did not physically die that day.
Who said who
Physically died 9
for sure?
later.
Who said that they would die physically that day?
I'd like to say something in there.
He didn't quite. Yahuwah didn't quite say that. He said, "If you eat from this tree, you will die that day." And I think that yes, they did spiritually suffer a spiritual death that day and downgraded their fellowship and relationship with Yahuwah, and that does inform physical. Not necessarily physically dying right away, but it does inform the physical as well. That's a whole nother conversation. I'm sorry, these aren't like really easy, like clear cut answers. Like we're talking about
I would like to
nuanced stuff.
interject
Yeah, go
on
ahead,
that.
Daryl.
Well, it did say that they, in that day, they surely would die. And later on, it says that the wages of sin is death. So,
Where did
sin that day?
well, totally, and they died that day, but Nick is saying they didn't physically die, and I'm saying, where does it say that if they eat from the tree they shall physically die? It doesn't. So you saying, well, they didn't physically die, so therefore that doesn't make sense, is only if you're starting off presupposing that when he said you would die that day, it's a physical death, correct? If you
From the back. Yeah, go ahead. I thought you were asking me a question.
No, I was, but Anthony was talking.
I don't think Daryl was what actually transpired and see that a physical death did not occur in the garden that day. One occurred 900 plus years later.
Who said that there was a physical death, though? That's what I'm asking you. You keep presupposing that into the text.
No, you're asking me. I'm saying this: a spiritual. Evidently, he meant a spiritual death. Or are you saying he didn't mean that? What are you saying?
No, what I said, what the topic was, is in the beginning. You said when it said they were gonna die, and they didn't die that day. Well, then that means such and such and such. And I'm saying, well, that's if when it's saying death, we're presupposing that it's a physical death. So I agree they died that day spiritually. That's what it's talking about. It was never talking about a physical death. The only way you can get confused about it is if you presuppose that when he's saying death, it's specifically talking about a physical death.
Okay. Maybe if y'all would let Daryl finish, y'all would both understand.
Robot Dickinson short-circuiting again. Someone fix him?
Were you still trying to say stuff, Daryl? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Well, maybe not.
I'd like to talk about that day because as far as dying that day, a day could be 1,000 years. and 1,000 years could be as a day. So as far as pinpointing it, if it was physical or spiritual death, I don't think we can quite get to that exact understanding.
Yeah, can we get back to Abraham though?
Totally. Yeah, thanks for that tangent. But yeah, no, it's good. Well, these are the type of conversations we go through because it is pretty important. We do see that he's doing alter behavior. He's called out of a place that's not doing an alter behavior to the Father to doing it in a place where he is doing it to the Father. So yeah, I personally think that that's always existed. Obviously there are those that don't. There's groups and doctrines out there that don't, and of course that's totally okay. People can believe what they want. That's part of the journey. So anyways, let's get on here now. Do you want me to keep reading from 13 in Genesis and then we can get into the Targum, or because it's kind of continuing the story, Anthony, or do you want to read from the Targum and stuff first?
Can y'all hear me now?
Yeah, totally. You were roboting him before, but you're good now, sounds like.
Yeah, I wanted to do like a transition between what Genesis 11 and 12. I wanted to do like a transition between those two chapters by using the book of Joshua, chapter 11.
Sweet, let's do it.
You want me to go ahead and start in Joshua?
Yeah, if you don't mind, Daryl, since I'm roboting so bad tonight, nobody can hear me. If you could read us just the book of, the chapter 11 of the book of Joshua. There's some points I want to bring up about it, but
Okay, yeah, I'd like to say something about it too. I didn't realize it was 3.5 pages long, so y'all have to bear with me on this. But I would like also to say Anthony's the first one that pointed me to Joshua 11 and read parts of it to me before. And I laughed. I really laughed a whole lot when Abram had to deal with the idols. So y'all listen up for that part. It's a little later on in it. But anyhow, I'm going to get going. And Nimrod, son of Cush, was still in the land of Shinar, and he reigned over it and dwelt there, and he built cities in the land of Shinar. And these are the names of the 4 cities which he built. And he called their names after the occurrences that happened to them in the building of the tower. And he called the first Babel, saying, because Yahweh there confounded the languages of the whole earth. And the name of the second he called Erech, because of their Elohim dispersed them. And the third he called Akkad, saying, there was a great battle at that place. And the fourth he called Kelneh, because his princes and the mighty men were consumed there, and they vexed Yahweh, and rebelled and transgressed against him. And when Nimrod had built these cities in the land of Shinar, he placed them in the remainder of his people, and his princes and his mighty men were left in his kingdom. And Nimrod dwelt in Babel, and he there renewed his reign over the rest of his subjects. And he reigned securely, and the subjects and the princes of Nimrod called his name Amphrael, saying that at the tower his princes and the men fell through his means. And notwithstanding this, Nimrod did not return to Yahuwah. And he continued in wickedness and teaching wickedness to the sons of men. And Mardon, his son, was worse than his father, and continued to add to the abominations of his father. And he caused the sons of the men to sin. Therefore he said, from the wicked goes forth wickedness. At that time there was war between the families of the children of Cham, as they were dwelling in the cities which they had built. And Kedorlaomer, king of Elam, went away from the families of the children of Cham, and he fought with them, and he subdued them. And he went to the 5 cities of the circle of the Jordan, and he fought against them, and he subdued them. And they were under his control. And they served him 12 years, and they gave him a yearly tax. At that time died Nachor, son of Serug, in the 49th year of the life of Avram, son of Terach. And in the 50th year of the life of Avram, son of Terach, Avram came forth from the house of Noah and went to his father's house. And Avram knew Yahuwah, and he went in his ways and instructions of Yahuwah Elohim, and was
Hey,
with him.
Daryl, if you want to break for just a second, we can stop right there if you like.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I know it's a lot to read, brother.
That's okay.
But I definitely
You're roboting
point
real
out
bad.
this verse, verse 14 in chapter 11. It says, "Where." Man, I'm so sorry. I don't know what's up with my service.
You're good. Keep going.
I don't get it.
You're good now. Yeah, keep going.
It's working now.
Yeah.
I'm very sorry to interrupt, but I was hoping that you could, if you needed a break for just a minute or something, because I know this is a long chapter. But it says in verse 14, it says, "And Abram knew Yahuwah, and he went his way in instructions, and Yahuwah Eliyahu was with him." Now, see, right there in the book of Joshua, it says that Abram knew his instructions. It means he knew the Torah. And this is in the book of Joshua, not Jubilees.
Yeah, that's a good point right there. However, I don't think Abram had the instructions yet. This is like surmising the whole chapter of 11 before, or the whole instance before it's actually happened yet.
Well, I totally agree with that. I totally agree with that. But, however, he knew right from wrong right here in verse 14 in chapter 11.
Yeah.
It says that Abram.
Yeah, I agree.
That's
he just hadn't been given the instructions yet at this moment, though. As far as the moment of, it's just laying down the groundwork, and then it's going to get into when he's going to be given the instructions, because he's still surrounded by all these false idols and stuff.
Oh, exactly. Exactly. This story gets a whole lot deeper than what we were actually discussing. I totally agree. But Daryl, if you'd like to take a break, or if you'd like to keep reading, we can start at verse 15.
I'll keep reading because I'm excited to get to that part that I find just really funny and hilarious, and everybody laughs with me.
Hey, is there any way I can get a link to what y'all are reading?
You can also see it on the YouTube, but yeah, I'll throw a link into the Discord.
Thank you.
Okay, I'll go ahead and start back at 15 here. And Terach, his father, was in those days still captain of the host of the king of Nimrod, and he still followed strange Elohim. And Abram came to his father's house and saw 12 Elohim standing there in their temples. And the anger of Abram was kindled, and he saw these images in his father's house. I'd like to stop there for a second. So maybe I was wrong about that, because if his anger was kindled, maybe he was already instructed from Yahuwah there.
I actually think so, because the way that it's saying he was walking in the instructions. It doesn't say like he was, like the instructions were coming to him. It says he was walking in the instructions with the Lord.
Okay. Yeah. So I have to.
No worries.
I think you're right. Okay, at 17. And Abram said, "As Yahuwah lives, these images shall not remain in my father's house. So shall Yahuwah, who created me, do unto me, if in 3 days' time I do not break them all. And Abram went from them, and his anger burned within him. And Abram hastened and went from the chamber to his father's outer court, and he found his father sitting in the court, and all his servants with him. And Abram came and sat before him. And Abram asked his father, saying, Father, tell me, where is Elohim, who created heaven and earth, and all the sons of men upon the earth? And who created you and me? And Terah answered, and his son Abram, and said, Behold, those who created us are all with us in the house. And Abram said to his father, My Adonai, show me to me, I pray you. And Terah brought Abram into the chamber of the inner court, and Abram saw, and behold, the whole room was full of Elohim, of wood and stone, 12 great images of other less than they were without number. And Terah said to his son, Behold, these are they which made you see upon earth, and which created me and you and all mankind. And Terah bowed down to his Elohim, and he then went away from them, and Abram his son went away with him. When Abram had gone from them, he went to his mother and sat before her. And he said to his mother, Behold, my father has shown me those who made heaven and earth and all the sons of men. Now therefore hasten and fetch a kid from the flock and make it a savory meat, that I may bring it to my father's Elohim as an offering for them to eat. Perhaps I may thereby become acceptable to them. And his mother did so. She fetched a kid and made savory meat thereof and brought it to Abram. And Abram took the savory meat from his mother and brought it before his father Elohim. And he drew nigh to them that day, that they may eat. And to Terah his father did not know it. And Abram saw on the day when he was sitting amongst them that they had no voice, no hearing, no motion, and not one of them could stretch forth his hand to eat. And Abram mocked them and said, Surely the savory meat that I prepared has not pleased them, or perhaps it was too little for them, and for that reason they would not eat. Therefore tomorrow I will prepare fresh savory meat, better and more plentiful than this, in order that I may see the results. And it was on the next day that Abram directed his mother concerning the savory meat, and his mother rose and fetched 3 fine kids from the flock, and she made of them some excellent savory meat, such as her son was fond of. And she gave it to her son Abram, and Terah his father did not know it. And Abram took the savory meat from his mother, and brought it before his father's Elohim in the chamber. And he came nigh unto them that they might eat, and he placed it before them. And Abram sat before them all day, thinking perhaps they might eat. And Abram viewed them, and behold, they had neither voice nor hearing, nor did one of them stretch forth his hand to the meat to eat. And in the evening of the day in the house, Abram was clothed with the Ruach Elohim, and he called out and said, Woe unto my father and this wicked generation, whose hearts are all inclined to vanity, who serve these idols of wood and stone, which can neither eat, smell, hear, nor speak, who have mouths without speech, eyes without sight, ears without hearing, hands without feeling, and legs which cannot move. Like them are those that made them, and that trust in them. And when Abram saw all these things, his anger was kindled against his father, and he hastened and took a hatchet in his hand, and came into the chamber of the Elohim, and he broke all his father's Elohim. And when he had done breaking the images, he placed the hatchet in the hand of the great Elohim which was there before them. And he went out, and Terah his father came home, for he had heard at the door the sound of striking of the hatchet. So Terach came into the house to know what this was about. And Terach, having heard the noise of the hatchet in the room of the images, ran to the room of the images, and he met Abram going out. And Terach entered the room and found all the idols fallen down and broken, and the hatchet in the hand of the largest, which was not broken. And the savory meat which Abram his son had made was still before them. And when Terach saw this, his anger was greatly kindled, and he hastened and went from the room to Abram. And he found Abram his son still sitting in the house, and he said to him, "What is this work you have done to my Elohim?" And Abram answered Terach his father, and he said, "Not so, my Adonai, for I brought savory meat before them, and when I came nigh to them with the meat that they did eat, they all at once stretched forth their hands to eat, before the great one had put forth his hand to eat. And the large one saw their works that they did before him, and his anger was violently kindled against them. And he went and took the hatchet that was in the house, and came to them, and broke them all. And behold, the hatchet is yet in his hand, as you see. And Terach's anger was kindled against his son Abram when he spoke this. And Terach said to Abram, his son, in his anger, "What is this tale that you have told? You speak lies to me."
Let me interrupt you for a second. This is like literally what happens. I know we're not in Christmas anymore, but like this is kind of what we're talking about is you tell your children, God is real. You tell them Santa Claus, the Easter Bunny, and the Tooth Fairy is real. And as they get older and they find each of those aren't real, they get to God and they say he's not real too. So I kind of put it like that because it's like, well, look at you lied to me. What do you expect to happen? And I think it's very funny that he's telling his dad the same little lie that his dad is telling him. But go ahead. Sorry for the interruption.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. That's a good point, that they're not only we lying to the kids, we're teaching the kids to lie by doing that. So that's a good point right there. Okay,
I agree with
42.
that.
Yeah, because Abraham is doing exactly what his father is doing, lying.
Exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, we're looking forward to that day when we're going to be getting taught good things instead of the bad things.
For sure. Amen to that. All right, go ahead.
All right. Is there in these Elohim Ruach, soul or power to do all you have told me? Are they not wood and stone, and have I not myself made them? And can you speak such lies, saying that the large Elohim that was with them smote them? It is you that did place the hatchet in the hands, and then say, he smote them all. And Abram answered his father and said to him, and how can you then serve these idols in whom there is no power to do anything? Can those idols in which you trust deliver you? Can they hear your prayers when you call upon them? Can they deliver you from the hands of your enemies? Or will they fight your battles for you against your enemies, that you should serve wood and stone, which can neither speak nor hear? And now surely it is not good for you, nor for the sons of men that are connected with you, to do these things. Are you so silly or so foolish or so short of understanding that you will serve wood and stone and do after this manner and forget Yahuwah Elohim, who made the heaven and earth, and who created you in the earth, and thereby bring an evil upon your souls in this matter by serving stone and wood? Did not our fathers in the days of old sin in this matter, and Yahuwah Elohim of the universe brought the waters of the flood upon them and destroyed the whole earth? And how can you continue to do this and serve Elohim of wood and stone, who can hear or speak or deliver you from the oppression, thereby bringing down the anger of the Elohim of the universe upon you. Now therefore, my father, refrain from this, and bring not evil upon your soul and the souls of your household. And Abram hastened and sprang from before his father, and took the hatchet from his father's largest idols, with which Abram broke it and ran away. And Terach, seeing all that Abram had done, hastened to go from his house. And he went to the king, and he came before Nimrod and stood before him, and he bowed down to the king. And the king said, What do you want? And he said, I beseech you, my Adonai, to hear me. Now 50 years back a child was born unto me, and thus he had done to my Elohim, and thus has he spoken. And now therefore, my Adonai and king, send forth him, that he may come before you, and judge him accordingly to the law, that we may be delivered from his evil. And the king sent 3 men of his servants, and they which and went and brought Abram before the king. And Nimrod and his princes and servants were that day sitting before him. And pardon me. And Terach sat before them. And the king said to Abram, What is this that have done to your father and to his Elohim? And Abram answered the king in the words that he spoke to his father. And he said, The large Elohim that was with him in the house did to them what you have heard. And the king said to Abram, Had they power to speak and eat and do as you have said? And Abram answered the king, saying, And if there be no power in them, why do you serve them, and cause the Son of Men to err through your follies? Do you image that they can deliver you, or do anything small or great, that you should serve them? And why will you not sense the Elohim of the whole universe, who created you, and in whose power is to kill and to keep alive? O foolish, simple, and ignorant king, woe unto you forever. I thought you would teach your servants the upright way, but you have not done this, but have filled the whole earth with your sins and the sins of your people who have followed your ways. Do you not know, or have you not heard, that this is evil which you do? Our ancestors sinned, therefore, in the days of old, and the eternal Elohim brought the waters of the flood upon them and destroyed them all, and also destroyed the whole earth on their account. And will you and your people rise up now and do like unto this work, in the order to bring down the anger of Yahuwah Elohim of the universe, and to bring evil upon you in the whole earth? Now therefore put away this evil deed which you do, and serve the Elohim of the universe as your soul in his hands, and then it will be well with you. And if your wicked heart will not hearken to my words, to cause you to forsake your evil ways, and to serve the eternal Elohim, then will you die in shame in the latter days, you, your people, and all who are connected with you, hearing your words or walking in your evil ways. And when Abram had ceased speaking before the king and princes, Abram lifted up his eyes to the heavens, and he said, Yahuwah sees all the wicked, and he will judge them.
Awesome. Thank you so much for that, brother.
Very well read, Daryl, and man, that was an awesome job reading. I know that was a lot to read, brother, but there's a lot of information.
Yeah, absolutely.
I gotta take a big breath after that.
And before we go on too far, like from the end, I want to kind of bring up some stuff, as I'm sure y'all do as well. But this 58, when he's like talking about the warning of like, hey, don't you remember? Now, what's really interesting about this is there's called, I believe it's called the King's Stone. There's this stone that has listed like all the kings, and it specifically mentions the flood. So Nimrod, who he's talking to here, 100% knows, all these people know that they're descendants of the flood. This was very much put into them where they know this. And Abram here sitting here saying, like, don't you know that all the stuff you're doing is the exact stuff that they were doing before the flood, and now you're doing that stuff again, like attempting the Lord to come and destroy us again. And before I wrap up, the one thing is that he specifically says to Nimrod that I think is very interesting, is where he says, where is it? Give me 1 second. And it says, and if in 16 it says, and if thy wicked heart will not hearken to my words to cause thee to forsake the evil ways and serve the eternal God, then thou shalt die in shame in the later days, which we know will happen because he's going to be destroyed at the splendor of the glory of the Messiah's coming. And it says, thy people and they are who connected thee, hearing thy words, or walking in thy evil ways. And as we recently talked about in the 3 Nimrod, Gilgamesh, Tammuz episodes, how all of the mystery religions, whether it be Luciferianism, Satanism, Hinduism, pick and choose your religion, these are all go back and connected directly to the behaviors that Nimrod was practicing, and who in here Abraham is directly calling out. So I think that's really interesting.
Look at verse 56, brother. Look what it says, man. Look what it literally says. And I know I'm ultra literalist, who somebody seems to like to call other people. Yeah, I'm an ultra literalist, unless it says otherwise. Like, for example, behold a parable.
I actually talked to my wife about that today. I was like, babe, he literally said ultra literal. Like, what's the difference between this is 100% ultra pure and just 100%
Right.
pure? There's no difference. It's just
That was the funniest thing I'd ever.
it's just passive aggressive language. But anyways, go ahead, Anthony.
Yeah, in verse 56 it says, "O foolish, simple, and ignorant king, woe unto you forever." And he's talking to Nimrod.
Forever.
They're talking to him or about him.
Yeah, I'm wondering, like, the king must have been, Nimrod must have been like just furious, wanting just to behead him right then and there on the spot.
Which is interesting that he couldn't, right?
Yeah,
I
Nimrod
know.
doesn't sound that scary right there. I mean, Abraham really put him in his place.
Well-
This big, bad, mighty hunter, killer of all, got put in his place by a shepherd.
It's totally, and I'm wondering, like, straight up, I've never read the book of Joshua. This is the first time that I've seen it, minus what it mentions in scripture. So this is my first time looking at it. But what I think is really interesting is, I don't know if it goes on to 12 to kind of see Nimrod's reaction or not. But do y'all know if it does?
Yep.
Yeah, it
Uh,
calls him to put him in prison right off the bat.
Yep. Yeah, it even gets better from that point on.
Awesome.
I'm telling you,
I had a question, if anybody can answer. Does anybody know how old Abraham was at this moment?
It
I'm
sounds
kind of
like
curious
he was a
about that.
teenager.
Well, if we go back to Genesis, at least what we were just reading in 12, now I guess we would have to put him somewhere in here, but in here it says he was, I know we just read it. It said he was like something in 7. Oh yeah, he was 75 when he departed out of Haran.
75.
So he was probably
Yeah, he's
75
acting
years
like a
old.
teenager.
Yeah, then again, how old did he live to? I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think that's just a portion of his life.
yeah,
He lived to be about 125 or 140, right? Because he had, he had to be almost 200 because he had Isaac and Ishmael at 90, right?
I think it says it verbatim in Genesis.
It does. I don't remember how old he lived to be, but it was a couple hundred years old at least, I think.
Anyone in chat, if they'll throw up how old he lived to, it would just help in the conversation. I can't remember off the top of my head, anyways. But yeah, it's definitely interesting because we know when he leaves this city to go into Haran, he was 75 years old. So I think that answers your question, right?
Oh, okay.
I think it answers the question as well. But I just like the boldness of it. Can y'all imagine going in front of the president of the United States, say, hey, pointing your finger and say, hey, look, you're wrong. I'll tell you this.
I'd love to do that.
It's much more than that, dude. It's like your father is homies with the president, and the president and your father were homies because they all believed in the same gods. And then your son goes and destroys them all and makes up a story about how the things did it, even though you made them. And then you go to your homie who's the king, the president, and he's like, dude, we made those together. He said, what happened? And then his son comes in and says, yeah, if I did them, then they're not much of a god, right? And then straight up questioning him. And dude, that would be insane because it's not just a dude to a dude. It's like a dude of a dude and his son.
I love this story, man. I love it. It's one of my favorites in the whole Bible. I call it victory of Abraham, man. And we're going to get into more of it in chapter 12. It's like Nimrod is like scratching his head, like, what can I do to this guy to finally end him? I don't know what to do now. He tries every which way he can to kill him, and he can't.
Yeah, Abraham sounds
right.
bad. It makes Nimrod look like a little sissy.
Well, and that's how it is, right? It's like I'm gonna add in Star Wars here, but it's like the dark side, right? They have all this super immense power, but then you have like Anakin, who's a little whiny girl. You know what I mean? Or the Emperor, who's a little whiny girl. No offense, ladies, but what I'm saying is like they're like all powerful, but then they shriek at the death. You know what I mean? So it's like the same kind of thing, and it's like. They may have this illusion of power when they get their power from the world, but when you have the power of Yah, like that's the only power that actually matters, and amen to that.
Yeah, your wife said Abraham lived to 175. Thank you, Mrs. Vader.
So he still lived for 100 years. So kind of in the grand scheme of thing, he's kind of is like a teenager, a young adult.
Yeah, Kyle's age. Young guy.
Am I that young?
You're the youngest guy in here, Kyle.
Yeah, you always got to get it.
You're our baby.
Well,
I just turned 18.
I like how Rod Skewer puts it. It kind of sums it all up as whenever Tarek walks in a room and finds all the statues all destroyed and everything, and the axe in the big one's hand, he looks at Abram and says, why did you do that? And Abram looks at him and says, I didn't do it.
That did it. He still has the axe. Look at. Do I have the hatchet in my hand? Do you see a hatchet in my hand?
The dog ate my homework. Yeah.
But I loved how he phrased that.
Yeah, because he kind of did it in a smart way. He was like, "You won't even believe the story. Like, all of them wanted to eat the food, but the best one didn't get any, so he got mad and smashed them all up. Dude, it obviously wasn't me. He still has the hatchet in his hand right now. Go look."
I love it.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah, it's so funny.
I wanted to also say something. He totally put Nimrod on the spot because if all the people under the king would have heard about this, that even Abram, this supposedly young guy, is greater than all their gods, then he'd be lifted up above the king.
And that goes
in their eyes.
Story. To the birth of Abraham, the vision that Nimrod had about the birth of Abraham, it goes back to that. because you know Nimrod had a vision about the stars lining up and all this stuff. He had a vision of Earth.
Sorry,
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, but kind of what y'all were just saying. Let me bring this back up on screen. So you were talking about like what would happen if the other people had heard it, and
Right.
like what that would mean. Look, when they left, Abram took his wife's his wife, his brother, Lot, his brother's son, the stuff that they had, and the souls that they had gotten in Haran. This is all the people that were hearing what Abraham was saying and left with him to look for the true God, to search, to have their hearts after the creator of the universe.
Right. Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. That he got quite a following there.
Exactly.
Well, and that was, the blessing that the Father said, that I would make a mighty nation from you, right? And that all the houses, all the peoples would become from you and be blessed from you. And literally that is the case, because the whole, like, it was almost it literally was New World Order 2.0 with Nimrod, because he had got it back up to speed from where they had left off pre-flood, and Abram was the set apart person, right? This he was in the nations of the nations, he was in the world, but he came out of the world and he was set apart. And that's like a beautiful story for us all, right? And haven't we in some way went through that same struggle that it talked about in the book of Jasher in our own lives? Like, have we not all had these own idols and things that our parents had set up before us, that through our own seeking out the truth that we've had to destroy? And I guarantee you, for Abram, you can tell that it was a bit out of anger, right? Because he didn't just try it one time and they didn't do anything. He said, dang it, I'm doing it wrong. I'm in the wrong. It wasn't good enough for them. There wasn't enough for them. That's why they didn't show up, right? And then he did more and more and they still didn't show up, right? But the fact that he did that, after he did that, that's when he, in the evening of that day, after he had tested it, he, test all things, hold to which is good. When he did that, that same evening, he was clothed in the Spirit of the Father. Boom. And then now he's calling out and saying, boom, this is a wicked generation. Boom. Now he's connected to the Father and he's seeing all the things as he in the world for what they truly are, as opposed to what they were taught to him as a child. Haven't we all gone through that? Whether it be the cosmology or different doctrines of Christianity. So
It's the same thing we're going through today.
totally.
Yeah.
And I love how the Father gives
Yeah.
us those spiritual stories through the literal stories that happen. You know what I mean? I love him. I love him for that.
I love him too.
Yeah, it totally applies to each and every one of us every day. That's awesome.
How would you describe Abram, like his characteristics?
Iron Man.
Iron Man.
I would actually say stubborn. In right and wrong. But I would say like blessed. Like he was definitely blessed. Like to do what he did and to go through what he did and to literally get to the point where he in his heart was willing to be as obedient to the Father in so much that he would lay down the life of his son.
Faithful.
Then he's faithful. Yeah, exactly.
Can I break in on that, Ben? I think, like ultimately what we see in the narrative of Abraham is, even though he messes up in big ways, and I know at least me, I've messed up huge in my life too. Ultimately, at the end of the story, at the pinnacle of the story, he comes to find out the true character of God like so well that he knew that if he gave away his son, he was going to get him back anyway. Somehow, some way, Yahuwah was going to bring him back, and that's the beauty of the narrative of Abraham right there. And I feel like that's all of our faith. Hold on a second, Anthony, please. I really would like to finish this without being interrupted. But that was really it. That's what I wanted to say. Go ahead, bro.
So I wasn't trying to interrupt. But personally, I think it's a depiction of Yah talking to Abraham, saying, "Would you do this? Sacrifice your son?" And Abraham said, "Absolutely," and went to do it. So that's when Yah said, "No, don't actually do it. I feel you, brother. I feel you. I see you will actually do it."
Yeah, totally. And not to interrupt, but Bill just made a good point. And he says, of all people who Yahweh chose to befriend, why Abraham? Clues to Abraham's story before he destroyed the idols. So when I read that, what I instantly thought of is the fact that he went to his mother and had her make savory meat from kids of the flock. So his natural instinct to have a feast for the fathers, that for the gods, right? I think is something that comes from the Father, because we know that feasts are eternal. So that's kind of my what I would say an answer to your, or a thought to your question.
Also, I'd like to point out, I'm getting a little ahead because it mentions it in chapter 12, but Abraham had an anointing, a calling on his life already. It says in verse 9 there, "And when Abram was come, the conjurers of the king and the sages saw Abram, and they cried out to the king, saying, O sovereign Adonai, surely this is the man whom we know to have been the child at whose birth the great star swallowed the 4 stars, which we declared to the king now 50 years since."
Yes, and that was the vision that Nimrod had. The stars.
Right, so Nimrod was afraid of him.
Exactly.
Well, in the context of this story, Abraham had a righteous indignation. He went like David against Goliath with the full power of Yah. You know what I mean? He went right up to Nimrod and just laid it down.
Isn't that okay? So that's totally correct, and that's why I was kind of mentioning before when I had read Genesis 12, where he had just came out of all that stuff, type of stuff, right? But then he's telling his wife to lie, so that so that they won't kill him to take his wife.
Well,
Yeah,
he
why
did
would he be
say
in fear if he
that
wasn't afraid of Nimrod? I mean, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. That's a
Well,
good
yeah,
point.
no,
But
Abram did say to that guy, he said, "I didn't lie, for she is my sister." So it wasn't really it was kind of a twist, you know.
Yeah, well, because I don't think he ever told anyone that it was his sister. I think he told her, like, hey, if anyone asks, just say that, like, you're my sister.
Which is deception.
Totally.
Practicing of deception.
No, I'm not justifying it. I'm just saying that.
Right.
Yeah. So, but what I will say specifically is that I think that that correlation there is just showing us that he's like everyone except obviously our Messiah, where he does good things and bad things, and those have physical and spiritual consequences.
Daryl,
totally agree.
hold on, Anthony, hold on. Daryl, where does it say that Abraham's wife was actually his sister?
Oh, I'm not sure where it says it. Oh, he says that. I'm not sure where it says it, but it says it's that she's actually the daughter of his mother, or and not on his father's side, or
So
not
a
his,
stepsister.
not of his mother and father, but of his like his father had two wives or something. I'm not exactly sure,
Where are you
but
getting that from? From Genesis?
I think it is in Genesis.
I never read that. I don't. You might have to pull that up.
Yeah, I would actually love to see that because that would kind of
Yeah, I would
squash.
too.
Because that would kind of squash a thing. Because if indeed that they were brother and sister,
sister-in-law.
like as in yeah, as sister-in-law, then he wasn't necessarily like because it. What's interesting is in 18, Pharaoh doesn't say like why have you lied to me or why have you deceived me. He straight up says why didst thou not tell me she was thy wife? Like he's saying why didn't you just say hey she's my wife, right? So it's interesting because I don't know. He could have it could just be semantics or language there, and I'm just reading in English, but it kind of seems like he's specifically saying like, why didn't you just didn't tell me? Hey,
Right.
she's my wife.
Vader, why would he be afraid of the Pharaoh but not afraid of Nimrod? Who Nimrod was
Nimrod
supposed to
was
be the strongest man
Oh,
in
hold
the
on, Anthony. Hold
world.
on, Anthony. Frank, what are you saying, bro?
Yeah, I said, why would Abraham be afraid of Pharaoh, but he wouldn't be afraid of Nimrod? Who Nimrod was supposed to be the strongest man in the universe.
No.
You know what I mean?
So I think what it may have been is he was at this point he was on other people's lands. So for like just as an
Nimrod, the ruler of the world at the time.
yeah, totally. But there's a difference. Like, if you think about it logistically, even if you have like an empire in Rome, right? Like, they have to send people all the way over to that nation to watch over them. And it's not just a quick transfer. Like, why have you lied to me? Babe, what are you doing? He straight up says, why didst thou not tell me she was thy wife? Sorry about that, guys. I had to mute my wife because she came in here and we can hear me talking on her thing. So sorry about that. If you'd like something, love, come in here and talk to me.
Yeah, I didn't see the orange around the green around your thing, and then you were talking. I'm like, what the heck is going on?
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it was a little weird. But anyways, I think that it could have been a lot of things. It could have been he was in a different land with a different ruler, right? And even if Nimrod is like the let's say is the strongest and he's the ruler of everything, which I think he was. I think being on other people's lands and being in their area is a lot different than it happening on his home court. Like, for instance, his dad obviously went to Nimrod, so they had some type of a relationship, which means he had some standing within the society. So Nimrod coming and taking his wife wasn't necessarily a worry, whereas the specific worry, it wasn't Abram was not afraid that Pharaoh was going to come and kill him just to kill him. It was specifically for his wife, which I just don't think that would have happened in his hometown, if that makes sense.
I guess.
Like, you're asking why would Nimrod want to take Rebecca and the Pharaoh didn't?
Hold on. Later, there's other instances in Genesis where he gives up wells to other nations. He digs well. I mean, he dug well after well, and he kept giving them up.
But you're assuming that's out of fear, right? I don't think so. I think he was a good man and he was blessed, and the father took him to wells and he got a well. And it helped out someone, so he had no worries because he knew he would be provided for, so he gave it up. So I think Abram was actually doing works, not for his own salvation, but for the glory of the Father, and how many nations grew up around those wells. So yeah, because of him, many nations were blessed.
Yeah, just like when he gave Lot the choice of what land he wanted. He gave him the first choice, because they were growing so much that they couldn't dwell at the same place, wasn't enough land. So he asked gave Lot the first choice of what land Lot wanted.
So yeah, it wasn't out of fear. I don't believe out of fear that he left those places. I think it was in love and blessings that he did, and I make those decisions based upon his character that I've seen, throughout.
I kind of view that also between the difference between a boss and a leader. Uh, Lot was a boss, probably a good boss, but Abraham was a leader.
And then there's a boss hog.
Well, I guess so.
And then there's the boss house.
Mississippi boss hog.
Do y'all see? Do y'all see where I'm coming from? On the real.
Totally. Yeah.
Are we talking about Springsteen or Abraham?
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, see, and so as you see, guys, we got through one chapter of Genesis and one chapter of Jasher with all the talk, and we're about 8 minutes out. So this is definitely going to be a multi-part series. So I hope you enjoyed this one. We're going to start winding down and saying our goodbyes. So, but before we do that, I want to bring up any last discussions, specifically of us moving forward and what we're excited to talk about with. Before we get say goodbyes, as y'all are doing that, I'm going to pull up the comments, those that left them from the last video. So, Anthony, what do you got for us?
Well, I was going to read the chapter 12 out of the Targum. We didn't quite get to that, though. There's no possible way I can read it in this amount of time. However, I'd like to kind of start up on that the next time we go live, to where we can discuss this. What do y'all think?
Yeah, I'm not opposed to reading it from the Targum. We obviously need to get into 13 and keep going too, unless we want to make this a 100-part series. But yeah, because I just know, I don't know specifically about 12 in the Targum, but I know it's typically has more in it than King James versions or other versions would.
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say more. I think it just explains what's in the KJV maybe a little better. I don't think it's more or less than what the actual KJV says.
I think you got a good point there. As long as we're finding meat in the gravy, we shouldn't move on too quick. But we could do that, and then go from that, and then follow on from that next week. It might be a good idea. We could discuss that.
I'm gonna be honest with you. I could talk for 2 hours about Joshua 11. I mean, there's so much information right there that ties everything in the unison. It blows my mind. I love reading that. It's exciting. It's like Iron Man goes up to in the Avenger movie or something. He says Operation Red or something like that. He's like, okay, you want some of this? I got you.
Yeah, I love it too, Anthony. That's an awesome story, man. Awesome.
Yeah, totally. All right, so I pulled up these comments. Let's go ahead and show these real quick. This was from the second procession episode. Just for those that have never seen it before, procession episodes are basically where we're moving from one topic, we're proceeding to the next one. That was moving from Nimrod into Abraham, and of course, all the Bible's connected, so things are connected. But we're really starting to focus on the great part of it, of of mankind, as opposed to the dark side of it. So anyways, so I'm going to read out some comments. This is from last one, brother. Much love and blessings to you all, as well as this one. We definitely appreciate the comments. Any type of comments. They definitely help let more people know that we're here, and it helps with the feed Al Gore's rhythm. So anyways, also Marcia said, thank you guys for your show and enjoy the talk we have in Discord. You're awesome. No, you're awesome, and we enjoy talking to you. What she's talking about is in the after show. Basically, once the stream goes off, people are still around in the main corners talking about various things. So come and join us there. The link is in the description of this and all videos. And mods also will throw it out there. So, and then my beautiful wife said, it's so interesting to realize just how little we know of the sun, moon, and stars. But it's sure fun to wonder and theorize and speculate. Also, y'all's night sky is so gorgeous. I know it is, isn't it? And we live up here kind of in the mountains. So like when the lights are nice and out, like you can see so many. So it's pretty awesome, and that's definitely where that song comes from. You know, Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Definitely fun to wonder what they are. So that was from the Enclosed Cosmology on Take on the World. Let me pull theirs up. Bear with me. Let's get into playlists. I thought I pulled theirs up, but I did not.
As far as in Southwest Mississippi yet.
Say that again, I'm sorry?
I was just messing around, man. I said all I can see is y'all ain't seen the stars in Southwest Mississippi yet.
I bet they're lovely.
They're beautiful, man.
This is what I
Yeah, there's a lot of nice stars out tonight. When I was walking the dogs, you could really see the stars beautifully.
Hey,
Most of the time
I don't.
it's cloudy up here.
I kind of have to disagree with something, but I don't want to be disagreeable about it. But I gotta say it. I really don't like that Twinkle Twinkle Little Star thing.
I don't either.
All right,
I
so
kind of like it, but I wonder.
so here's a comment from Z Square. Says visual hypnotic puzzle pieces need to be removed. I don't understand that. I don't get how they are visually hypnotic. It's literally just a puzzle piece rotating in a place. It kind of looks like a Mario coin to me. But
those are probably the that are subject to MK Ultra. It's a trigger term for them. That's just my guess. I don't know.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry you feel that way. It's our logo. If I'm sorry that you don't like it, it's a puzzle piece saying we're all searching for that puzzle piece, like you kind of do in a video game. You're looking for the coins or the whatever they so be. Like that's what we're after. We're after the puzzle pieces. So sorry that you feel like that. I did put my heart and soul into making these things, and I have no connection or want a connection with any type of occultic behavior. So I very much oppose to that. So sorry that you think that that's in some way associated, but I do still appreciate your comment.
And I second that too. I know how much work and time that Vader Bear put into this intro and everything, and the graphics and all this stuff. I know how much time he put into it, and much appreciation to you, Vader Bear. You did an excellent work, bro.
Oh, glory to the Father, man. All I'm doing is using like my abilities for good, and it sucks to when people see that they see them as bad, but you know you can't please everyone, and that's fine. But I'm still walking in love, and my heart's still after the Father, so that's all that's really important to me.
Hey, brother.
Amen.
Awesome. All right. Well, we do again still appreciate you for comments, even those that are critical. We do. It does help the community, so us grow. So we do appreciate it regardless. But anyways, we'll go ahead and start wrapping up and saying our goodbyes. Now, I'll go ahead and throw it off to Anthony, and we'll go from there.
All right, brother. This is my turn to say goodbye, right?
Yes, sir.
All right. Messing around since I messed it up last time. But Shabbat Shalom to everybody. I really do love y'all. I want to thank you all for hanging out in the chat, being here in the Discord, being here on the YouTube stream. Thank y'all very, very much. And for the discourse and the analogies and just learning scripture all together like this. It's so beautiful. But I love y'all no matter what. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Awesome. Thank you for that, brother. All right, Daryl, you want to say your piece, sir?
Okay, you want yes, sir. Shabbat shalom, everybody. I'm glad y'all showed up, and like to see you show up in the after show too. That'd be awesome. We sure appreciate that. Anyhow, y'all have a good night, and Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom, indeed. All right, now I'm going to skip Frankie because he's going to go last and call out their song like usual. So go ahead and throw out, say your goodbyes to everyone, Kyle.
Goodbye, everyone. Thank you, Vader, for having me. Appreciate everything that y'all have informed me of today. Try to cram everything in as I go. That's why I needed a link so I could read along.
Totally.
Appreciate you having me.
Yeah, awesome, dude. And join us anytime. Like, anytime you're available, you can come. We definitely love having other ears and eyes and things on stuff, and we definitely appreciate it. So welcome anytime, brother. All right, and Nick, appreciate you always being here, brother. When you do show up, it's awesome to have you here. So if you'd like to go ahead and say goodbye to everyone.
Yes, real quick, Vader, thanks for putting this together. I was really blessed by this show. I thought we went to some very interesting, critical areas and blessed by the discussions. And I just want to end by reading some scripture, let Yah speak, not me. But out of John chapter 4, verse 18, he said, "There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear, because fear involves punishment, and the one who fears is not perfected in love. And Abraham was perfected in love. He was not punished, but he was brought into higher faith by all the love and blessings of Yodhe Bahai." So with that, I'm going to toss it right back to you, Vader. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure, brother, and thank you for reading that scripture to us. Awesome. All right, yeah, so I'll go ahead and say goodbye to everyone. Thank you for showing up. I'll say it like I said in the beginning. Please like, share, and comment. It really helps the community grow. Please join us in the Discord. If you're not comfortable with talking, come in, mute yourself, and listen. If you need help in navigating it, there are people here that do know how to use it and can give you some good instructions. So feel free to ask. And then as much as that, I do appreciate everyone coming here, dear brothers and sisters. It does mean a lot to me. Whether you're here live, we appreciate those that are here and talking and iron sharpening iron. It's definitely beautiful to even go back and read these conversations that y'all have and glean from those. But also to those that watch it later, thank you so much for giving us a listen and hearing what we have to say, and we'd love for you to join us as well. So other than that, I hope everyone has a wonderful week coming up, that the Father is with you and keeps you and blesses you as such. And I'll throw it off to my boy Frankie and let him close this off with his song.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. I just want to say, give a shout out to my mom. She actually called me during the stream and told me to be careful if I travel tomorrow because there's ice. So, as a mother's love, I appreciate that, and I just want everyone to stay safe during this time of winter with road travel, ice and snow. Just stay protected in the covering of Yah, and remember, love is your witness. Let's all walk in love together. A unified body is what Yeshua desires the most. So the love we give is showing Yeshua to others. So be blessed. Have a great week. Stay safe during this winter season. Love is your witness.
Shabbat shalom, everyone. Love is your witness.
Shabbat shalom.
is your witness. Love is your witness. Love is your witness.